and welcome back to Goalie Interference. The one and only Mike McKenna of Daily Faceoff is here with his Violent Gentleman hat.
Yeah, good brand.
I like it.
I
also like
stuff,
this.
Man.
What is this? Is a nice pullover you have there.
It's a cardigan, but thanks for asking.
I like it. I like the shoulders. It's very gray. I'm a big fan of gray clothing.
Are you jealous of my shoulders, Ken?
As someone who does not have shoulders, yes, I am. I would say I might be more jealous of people's shoulders than hair. I don't particularly care about the hair. Not a big deal to me, but shoulders, I could use some of those every once in a while. Look tough, like I can't,
I gotcha. Well, what's happening, man? How you been the past week? What's new?
Oh, I've been fantastic. It's been an interesting week of
Happy New Year
hockey, which has been nice. That week off kind of sucked, and I was a little nervous about what was going to happen. Last night's game, a little bit of a downer for me. Obviously, the Golden Knights are missing half the damn roster, or at least all the important players, and they looked like it. But you also have some of the issues of the things that kind of seem to be symptomatic of some of the problems the Golden Knights are having. And I kind of want to start there before we get into Logan Thompson, because I think that's the major bright spot. I tried to say part.
Slappy, Sweeney Swanson.
It was not good. I tried to say
Samsonite.
In the same point. It wasn't good. He is the bright spark of the game from last night. But let's start with the lesser. And I think it's more important in regards to where this team is headed, solely because I don't think that Logan Thompson is going to be the guy moving forward. I don't see this being a Binnington situation. But this season, the biggest issue you've seen would be what in how the Golden Knights are defending and what types of teams are kind of challenging them at this point.
Yeah, it's really, to me, the teams that, well, first, it really all season long, you could kind of classify the chances against as being catastrophic for the Golden Knights. And that's not a fair assessment of all 30 shots you're going to see in a game, but it's way too high of a percentage of them. And I think it's been a lot of it. It's just purely about how the Golden Knights have been trying to push the pace offensively in transition and get the D active and all that. And in games where the Golden Knights really aren't mentally into the game, when they really aren't on top of things, and when they're playing against the top end teams more often than not, they tend to lose that focus. And that's when you see odd man rushes going the other direction. You see the blown coverage in the zone. I think defensively in zone at times, when they are missing players, they start to run around a bit. They start to lose the director. Okay. It's like trying to make a movie without a director sometimes, right? Like you do still need to have the maestro back there, and, when you're missing, Martinez has been gone for a long time, but when you're missing Martinez, when you're missing Stone, missing Pacioretty, like you're just missing a lot of bodies like that. And I think for the Golden Knights, they were probably due for a bit of a market correction. They'd been running hot, man, like hot. And that Winnipeg game was a joke. An entertaining joke. Like, you know what I mean? Like entertaining, but it was just, what is going on here? Yeah. Last night's game was, listen, we can't call Nashville a pushover. Nashville looked really good.
Yeah, they're good.
This team is, I think AT&T Sportsnet flashed up a graphic that both teams started 1-4, and ever since then, they've both been pretty much red hot.
Right.
And it's real. And Nashville, to me, looked a lot like Carolina and how they played the Golden Knights. 2 men hard on the forecheck, pressure the D, take away that D to D pass. The Golden Knights started having to flip pucks out again, which they did. That's kind of like their safety valve. It's like their release valve, I should say. But that's not ideal. You want pucks going direct. So, Nashville, Carolina, like those two teams to me were really problematic against the Golden Knights because they pressured so hard down ice in zone on the D of the Golden Knights, and their gaps and routes through the neutral zone were so strong. And that kept the Golden Knights from really getting going in transition. And you know what? Like, Golden Knights came on strong at the end. Like, I liked their third period. I liked the push. Like, at the end, I thought they were going to score. And, a couple block shots. UC Saros was awesome. And, that was it. So I do think it really is just because the team tries to be that aggressive. They allow those types of chances. But this is how the top teams in the league play. So I'm cautious to say that it's a big problem because Tampa Bay does that, and they got Andre Vasilevsky. And dude, Jack Campbell is doing that in Toronto right now. Never in my life thought I would say that, ever. Which makes me so happy because a member of the goalie union's like,
come on, he was good at World Juniors.
Well, yeah, 10 years ago. Like this
Right,
dude was
but
written
he's still
off.
living on that.
Like
Yeah.
written off.
Yep.
I saw him playing in American League. I thought, no chance. And
see ya.
I'm happy for him. So I digress. I've gone in a different direction there. But I think really the Golden Knights, more than anything else, just kind of hit a bump in the road here. I do want to think that. But you can't let it fester. It can't happen next game again.
Right.
It's got to be a
Which
strong
is another
start to the
tricky
game.
Yeah,
yes.
It's another tricky game. And by the way, I
Yes.
sound way better. It usually, when you plug the mic into the camera, it works.
Yes,
when you
it tends to.
It doesn't. So as it turns out, I sound much better. But I think the part that's interesting to me, at least, is that the defense is, yes, missing Martinez, but aside from him, fairly well intact. And even when it's not, there's not guys out there that are like missing Steven or missing Pacioretty, missing Stone, those types of situations. When the misfits were out there, when you saw times where you would see Wah, Janmark, and whoever, Kolazar, I think was mostly who he's with, that's probably going to be a line moving forward. They were struggling against that two-man pressure. Yes. They iced the puck 14 times last night, including 9 times in the first period. They clearly were not handling that. And as much as I want to believe that it will improve slightly with putting a guy like a Stone back in, a Pacioretty back in, I do think that that's a piece that's kind of starting to become a little bit of an MO of the Golden Knights is if you can forecheck them heavily enough, they're going to flip the puck out. And then if you can play those bouncing pucks without losing them in transition, you're going to be able to kind of hem these guys back to where they're just going to ice it over and over and over again, win a couple draws. The Golden Knights are the worst team in the league winning draws off of their own icings. I know I'm not a face-off guy, but that is a fact. Yeah. You have some opportunities to potentially steal goals on them. But the bigger piece to me, and it's another one that I'll give Jason his due on this one because he's been frustrated about this, is the overwhelming excitement about outshooting the opponent. Yeah, to me, that's just, it's become Vegas hockey. Like, if they don't outshoot the opponent, we kind of have to ask the question of like, well, what's going on here? When they're outshooting their opponent, that doesn't necessarily mean they're outplaying their opponent. Last night was a perfect example of that. Yeah, I mean, that's really, you start to dig in and you can pull up all the advanced stats you want. And it's just, I mean, to a T, like when you aggregate everything over the season, a lot of the fancy stat sites will have basically chances for, they'll have shots for, but they'll also have like chances for, high danger, chances scoring chances, high danger,
scoring chances, high, and it kind of goes in 3 tiers, right? Like chances for, scoring chances for, high danger chances for, and it goes in a declining fashion for the Golden Knights. They'll have like 1,000 chances for, and the other team will have like 5, and then you get to the middle frame of the scoring chances for, and the Golden Knights will still have their token 15, 20. The other team's got, 10, dozen, maybe 15. And then by the time you get down to real scoring chances this season, at least, okay, toss that Anaheim game out the window. Okay. That was an absolute shellacking. That was JV versus varsity.
Outrageous.
Yeah, I mean, Anaheim's missing everybody for that one. They're missing Zegras, Steele, Comtois, then Fowler's hurt right away, whatever. But then you get down to scoring chance, like legit high danger chances tend to be really close for the Golden Knights. And to me, that's still where you look at special teams. Like you can say that we're getting shots, we're generating, we're getting shots. Well, man, I've seen this for years under Pete DeBoer led teams. It happened. It was with San Jose. It was the same way. Like, and Ken, it's amazing. Like you can even filter this down to the minor league level because, you tend to play the same systems in the minors, right? Well, and you guys, everybody watching this knows, like I played most of my career in the minors in the American League, but man, I'll be damned if San Jose's affiliate didn't just throw pucks from everywhere.
Ripping shots from the outside.
Yes. And dude, I was good against him because I was ready for it. I knew what was coming. And as long as I kept the puck, well, as long as I kept the puck in front of me, I was fine. I was ready for 40 shots.
Night. Fairly easy night. And he saved like 45 shots or 40 something shots, and it was not that hard a night.
until the third, man. He was excellent in the third. He really was.
Once the Golden Knights got that first goal, and then they started getting the goalie out, and once they're in 6-on-5, they've become just unbelievable. Like, they are fantastic at 6-on-5.
But I think blood in the water.
That's one of the pieces that I wonder if it will change or how much it will change. And then also how much Eichel's inclusion is going to change that. Is that if you really watch when the Golden Knights play a good team, and I'm talking top 10 team in the NHL, like I think sometimes we have to kind of make sure we make it clear that like we fully believe the Golden Knights are top 3, 5 at the worst. Like we think they are an elite hockey team.
They're a top 5 team in the league.
Yes. Yeah, you take away $40 million, they're still better than most teams in the NHL. So what I'm concerned about is when they play another one of those teams that's potentially there in a conference final, in a second round, in cup final, Carolina, you brought up, New York tomorrow, or the game in Madison Square Garden. Nashville, I think, is an interesting one. St. Louis is a good one. We missed the Colorado game. One of the things the Golden Knights have not done historically is been able to get to the front of the goal. That's how those Sharks teams beat the Golden Knights at different points throughout the course of the time of when DeBoer was there. They're able to get traffic in front. This team, when they have an extra skater, he skates directly in front of the goal and stands there. And then he goes and helps try to retrieve pucks, and then he comes right back to the goal. And when that happens, these shots from Theodore and Pietrangelo and Coghlan from the point are going in. When they play 5-on-5, there's no traffic in front. I can't tell you how many times I counted shots from the point where there is not a single Golden Knight even near the inside of the defensive shell. Like, that's a piece that I wonder, can that improve? Or are we just missing pieces? Are you saying, well, Smith doesn't do it, Marchessault doesn't do it, Carlson doesn't do it, Waugh does, Dadonov doesn't really do it, Janmark doesn't do it, does Stone? I don't know. Pietrangelo really doesn't, Stevenson doesn't. Like, are you at the point where you're saying, are we missing personnel to play the way that they need to play? Because we know they can possess the puck, we know they can outshoot teams, we know they can outchance teams, we know they can suppress shots, but that's a piece they have to be able to do.
I think there is a little bit of a disconnect there because you hear it all the time. Well, I mean, even Ben Hutton between periods, I think. So, well, we just got to. By the way, he gave the.
He's the best.
That was the most. It was the most hockey guy between periods interview of all time. I think he said get pucks deep. I think he said get in on the forecheck. Like
biggest smile.
Go try to win one, pull one out for a goal. Like he hit all his marks, dude. It was awesome. I'm just sitting there giggling at it.
They're my favorite every time. 7 defensemen are the best.
Yeah. So, but what he said though was, we got to get some people to the front of the net, get some tips, deflections, rebounds. And I'm like, dude, you guys just don't do that. Like,
no.
And that San Jose team had one person whose name's Joe Pavelski, who's the best in the world at it.
Well, Hurdle was good at it. Couture was good at it. Kane.
Sure. Yeah, and they're good. But other teams have these players that will go there. They will stand in front and do that. And you don't see that consistently enough. And I do think a lot of it is because the team is so good really at the rush that they just want to regroup and attack, and attack, and you kind of get stymied to where everything goes to the point and you're just thinking, okay, get it there, get a lane, it is one area where I watch like Marchessault is really good at tipping pucks, but it really doesn't happen very often. And even
it's hard for a little guy to get in there. And
even Dadonov in a prior life in Florida, in the high slot was pretty good at tipping pucks.
Here, and they don't do high slot. When's the last time you've seen a high slot tip from Vegas?
It's not. I mean, we haven't seen that play. I mean, that's a pretty standard power play for a lot of teams. And you know what? Actually, that is one thing you miss not having Pacioretty in the lineup, because when teams start to shade him heavy and take his shooting lane away, it does open that high tip option.
Yep.
So that's a variable you don't get without him.
Martinez maybe too.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I totally agree with you, Ken. I've thought this for a long time. There's a disconnect there to say that we're just going to grind out goals. Like, I think the Golden Knights at times refuse to accept their identity of being a rush team.
Yeah.
They are. They still are.
It's hard to generate that when things aren't going your way, and you need the ice to kind of tilt in your way at different times, and then you need to play against teams that aren't packing it in. If teams are giving you easy gaps and easy entries, this team's going to rip them apart. And they're going to do it over and over and over this regular season. And that's where I think there's talking about a disconnect. I think there's a disconnect between fans and what they want and what they actually want. You don't want points in the regular season. Like, yeah, you need to have some of them. I get it. You got to finish in the top 8. I get that. But what we want to see from this team is strides. We want to see things going the right way. And some of the pieces of things that they've done, I think the depth of this team actually is starting to show up. If they play rush hockey, Waz's going to score. Janmark's going to score. Kolazar is going to get chances and not score. Carrier is going to get chances and not score.
Like Janmark's started to bring it a little bit. You know, I mean, streaky as can be, but you've noticed him for once.
Yeah. And like you're starting to see Stevenson's a good example. And I wrote the whole thing today, kind of going through like, what do we do with Stevenson? I don't think he's as good without those two guys, but I think he might be good enough to leave him with. I don't know. We'll get to that another day. But like, I think you're starting to see some pieces that are good, but the default style of offense, and we felt them really fall into that last night, is ripping shots from the point.
And this is a great comment that we got here. You've got it right there. So this is something about the Predators that's completely changed. And this is a super prescient point for the Golden Knights. And
we should read it for those who are listening on the podcast. Pred's physical dominance was super obvious from the first period. I remember when we played that way.
Yes, and that's with some lament there. I remember when we were like that. And Ken, I'm not going to go down the Ryan Reeves hole with you here, bud. Okay, I'm just going to set that aside. But there was much more of a physical element to the Golden Knights in previous seasons. Okay. And that's the dominance that we're speaking of here is when I talk to friends of mine in the league and they'd say, man, Vegas is heavy and they come in waves.
They were a truck.
They're heavy and they come in.
Like, you don't think that's Stone's not playing, Pacioretty's not playing, Martinez is not playing. Like, to me, that's where that is. I
agree.
Kolazar will punch you if you reverse hit your own guy, whatever.
But man, like, I don't know, dude. Like, Will Carrier still goes out and Mac trucks it, you know. But, you know, even Nosek was so effective in that role. He wasn't a big hitter, but he directed traffic a lot. And even, again, it's that heaviness in the first year. Like, it doesn't have that same in your face, go out and hit everybody mentality. And there's something to that, man. Like, when you watch St. Louis play now, boy, they hit hard. And Nashville has completely flipped the script from what they were. They were so soft the last year and a half. And I mean, John Hines, their head coach, laid into them, so we're not going to play like this, but you need the personnel to do it. And, you know, you got a couple softies up front that don't want to. Well, now they got a guy named Tanner Jeannot on that team. Okay. And I'm going to tell you what, this guy is going to play in the NHL a long time. He's got 10 goals and 6 fights this year. He played time in the ECHL last year.
He's the one who fought Kolazar?
He is. Undrafted player. Sasky boy. He's from Saskatchewan. But he's had to earn everything. Everything at the American League level, ECHL, NHL. And he's good. But what happens with a player like that when you insert him on the third or fourth line, that's young, that's hungry, that plays hard.
Pain in the butt.
Pain in the butt. Yeah. What that happens is it guilts your top guys into doing it. And that's where Nashville has really come around.
The old drag them into the fight argument.
It really is, man. So you got Jeannot doing it. You got Michael McCarron, who's another big, heavy body up from the minors that's making a name for himself. They got Cousins is ratting it up, doing what he does, dude. Like, I mean, who took the embellishment penalty last game on him? I can't even remember who got it.
Dadonov.
Well, there's no surprise, but
that was a bullshit call. Come on.
Oh, whatever.
It was terrible.
I do find that to be something that's really true is that they lose their heaviness and that in their face game with Stone and Pacioretty out. Even though Stone doesn't run people, he's a heavy player.
He's a big guy.
Heavy. Yeah. He's heavy on his stick. He's hard to move. He's a guy you don't want to see in front of the net.
And that's part of it doesn't scare me. Like, no. I know what you're saying, and I'm with you that you have to have that to your game. But I think what you said about Tanner Jeannot, and like it was kind of matter of factly, you're like, well, 10 goals. Well, that's where you need players who can do that. That's Pacioretty.
Corey Perry might have 10 goals this year on a fourth line of Tampa,
that's
right?
going to be
you need this.
Like that, I think can be a Nick Waugh, can be, these types of players. Like, I think it's there. I don't maybe I'm reading it wrong. I don't think they're missing that. I don't think this roster, the way it's constructed, is missing jam.
I hate that word. When you have Stone and Pacioretty, and I don't think that they're missing it. And then this is what's hard, because how do you gauge a team when they don't have your best players in the lineup that carry that torch? So that is, I know I'm looking at this as something through of an unfair prism, I believe, but that's frankly, the Golden Knights don't have depth in the minors either.
No, they have all the depth in the minors has come up and shown they're replacement level players that can play but don't do anything.
Yeah, Jake Lecision doesn't run anybody. Paul Cotter doesn't run anybody. Rombjerg doesn't run anybody. You can just go down the list of, you don't have that nuclear weapon to toss. Like Kolasar was that guy from the mind, the heavy guy. Right?
They have Jermaine Lowen.
He's a beast. That guy is
swing his stick like a baseball bat at your face.
I don't know how he didn't get suspended forever for that last year.
He did that. 3 games.
Yeah, that probably should have been 300 for that one. But yeah, so it's kind of just not there. And that's where you see other teams like Nashville, when they called guys up, they had that. So I don't know. By the way, we're definitely picking apart the Golden Knights.
Oh yeah, but that's because we want to find out, is this a cup winner? Not, is this another example of the last 4 years or 3 years? I would say more likely. Specifically, the last 2 years, the two DeBoer teams was that team wasn't going to win. The last 2 years, they were not going to win the cup, and we have to recognize that. And that's where I don't know what the front office is trying to build. Some moves they make me scream, we're trying to win the Stanley Cup. Jack Eichel, we're trying to win the Stanley Cup. Alex Pietrangelo. But then when you go out and you spend extra money on your backup goalie, sorry, I know you're a backup goalie union guy, but
I'll disagree with you on this one all day.
You can't spend that much money on your backup goalie. It will not help you when the games matter. You can't do it.
I disagree with you on that one totally. Look at all these teams that are complaining about goalies.
but if you have a good starter, who's Tampa's backup?
Brian Elliott, and that's a huge point of concern.
How much
if
is he make?
Vasilevsky's gone, they won't win.
Okay.
Elliott's probably $1.5 million. Okay.
And that's too much.
They won't touch it with him. They will not win with him.
And that's fine. They wouldn't have won the last 2 years without him.
No, but I think that you can still get goaltenders. Brossoit's making what, 2.5?
2.5.
2.5. 2.5 is that's probably, it's surprising, because Brossoit to me on the open market was probably worth more 1.7 to 2. But you got to look at the market, man. Jonathan Bernier pulled down 3.75 or 4 or something, right?
So don't pay it.
That's how the market was. But then you get stuck. Your only hope at that point.
Stuck. Look at who played last night.
He wasn't. Listen. If we want to make the transition now, it's good timing for it.
We will, but I have to do an ad read first.
Oh, please. I want to hear it.
This show is brought to you by the Jimerson Law Firm. Goalie Interference is always brought to you by the Jimerson Law Firm. The Jimerson Law Firm is one of Las Vegas's preeminent law firms, specializing in high-stakes business, civil, and family litigation. When winning matters, every time you play everybody except for Nashville, the Jimerson Law Firm is there for you. Seek out the Jimerson Law Firm. Hopefully, there's more winning in the future. Last night, Logan Thompson gets his NHL starting debut. Sorry to the guy that was down my throat about the 8 minutes that he played in Minnesota last year in relief when Dylan Coghlan scored a hat trick and they almost came back and won. It's not his NHL debut, I was told. Very angrily. Off. Okay, here's my point with him. He's the reigning AHL goalie of the year. I know he played 4 teams. Most of them sucked. I get it. But he was the best goalie in the AHL. This is a kid who has a history of kind of proving people wrong, doing things that you don't expect, finding a way to be a little bit better than you thought he was going to be. He comes in that game last night. I thought he was halfway decent to good. Philip Forsberg's really good, so that is what it is. Do you have to put him in as your backup? No, you do not. But can you at least take the proof of saying, I think we've got a chance that this $750,000 player could be the guy? Why don't we go with another $750,000 guy, and we'll have 2 lottery tickets, and if we miss, we'll go out and buy another one.
Okay. This is going to be fun because I'm going to explain the whole scenario of why you get somebody like Laurent Brossoit. First, you got Robin Lehner on a cheap deal, $5 million. It's cheap for a starter. You can have both your goaltenders at 7.5, and most teams are running closer anywhere from 6 to 10.
Already overthinking it. You're already overthinking it.
So you've got to listen here. And the way you look at this is that last season, yes, Thompson was good. Okay. He played 23 games in the American Hockey League. You need 20 games to be able to judge a season. That's not anywhere near 50. Okay. His American League experience is still under 50 games. He's never carried the mail for a full season at the American League level. He needed this full year to do that. And he's responded. He's been great again. Okay. Now, there's things about Logan Thompson's game. When I watched him last year with Henderson, I said, this will not work in the NHL. He's too bent over. He's all hands and legs. He attacks the puck. He creates rebounds for himself. He doesn't eat it. There were things that I saw. But he is a legit NHL prospect because he has phenomenal hands. He has phenomenal athleticism and explosiveness. And he has pretty good technicality. He just needed a little bit of guidance. He needs a taller torso. He needs to learn how to play at this level. You cannot give the reins to a goaltender at 23 years of age, 24 years of age, when they haven't played a full year in the American Hockey League, when it's been in the ECHL. Let me continue. That he needed the time. And by getting Brossoit on a 2-year deal, Brossoit comes in, he plays well, he creates a market for himself. And I said this at the start of the season, that I could see Brossoit being dealt and the keys being given to Logan Thompson this season, as early as this season.
All right.
And this is what I'm trying to tell you. You need this depth, and especially in COVID right now, man. Like, dude, everybody's like looking at Edmonton. They're like, oh, they should get Charlie Lindgren from St. Louis. Dude, St. Louis needs those 3 goalies going into playoffs. You don't want to not have 3 goalies in COVID and everything else, because then you're stuck with Dylan Ferguson. Like, and I don't mean stuck. Okay, this is not disrespect for Dylan, but like Dylan's hardly played in the American League. Okay,
hey, 22 years old.
I think here it was the right play to go get somebody to be your number 2 with NHL experience that you could rely on, to let Thompson carry the mail, which is exactly what he's done for these first 20 games in the American League. It set him up for the moment of the game last night. I thought he played very well, and I think he can play well in the NHL. I think his style and his tendencies now were cleaned up a little bit from what I saw last night. Now, that was my only sample size on him of the season. He can play in the NHL. He can be your backup in the NHL. You can win games with him. But let's get to the deadline before we start thinking about this, and let's see him play a few more games.
Do you think they're going to trade him, Brossoit?
Brossoit? I don't think so. But that's a thought process that I've had, that let's say Robin Lehner's out for a month, because we all know day to day means anything in VGK land. So we don't know. No idea.
We don't.
If Logan Thompson, let's say Logan Thompson plays 10 games and plays lights out, or plays 10 games and even plays like really good hockey.
Okay.
It's probably not likely, but Brossoit, I mean, what if he's out? I think you make a case for yourself with Thompson. I think you really do. I don't see them getting rid of Brossoit during the season. I'd be surprised by that. But my whole thought process this whole time on a 2-year deal with Brossoit was that guy is going to be gone after this next season, like this season, to make the room for Thompson.
I mean, that's what happens. I'm in favor of it. If that was the plan all along, was we're going to find a way to build him up, and then we're going to get assets out of him because we can utilize this, and we can plug Thompson in as the backup, and then down the road. If that's the plan, fine. That's not how I view what the plan was. I view the plan as, we must win regular season games. It is important for us to win as many regular season games as physically possible. Thus, we cannot afford to have only one usable goalie that we are confident in. We must have 2, and then we'll have the lottery ticket behind him. And they're probably not going to give the lottery ticket, Thompson, enough opportunity to ever actually find out what he can possibly be. Like, I think it's reasonable, not likely, but reasonable, that he could be better than Laurent Brossoit if you give them both 10 games the next 10 games. I think it's reasonable that he could be better. I don't think there's any way in hell Logan Thompson's getting 10 games. And that's because the Golden Knights care way too much about regular season games.
Who did Logan Thompson play junior for?
That would be the Brandon Wheat Kings.
He's going to get every opportunity to play if he plays well. And that's where, with Brossois, I mean, when's Brossois coming back?
That we don't know. I mean, we have to assume that's a concussion. He gets kneed in the head. We have to assume that's a concussion. The Golden Knights are never going to say it's a concussion because this would be the third time in franchise history that a goalie has gotten a concussion, remained in the game, and then missed games afterwards. Not ideal. But Leonard was on the ice. I think Leonard's back in by Saturday. I think Leonard plays against Fleury.
Yeah. Well, again, we just don't know. And so I think it's going to obviously take extenuating circumstances. But these things I mean, the Hamburglar went on a 20-something game run in Ottawa a couple of years ago, and he got a 3-year contract out of that sucker, and he's got a lot more sheets in the bank than I do. You know, Mike Condon did the same thing. But the difference was those guys were kind of journeymen later in their career at that point, and Thompson's still a legit prospect.
That is
who would you have taken? Seriously, tell me who you would have taken instead of a cheaper rate.
Options? The goalies better. Who were the cheapest goalies? How much did Martin Jones get?
Jones got, I think he's at $1.50.
Okay, that's better than $2.50.
I would not have taken Martin Jones. You tell me you want to take Martin Jones over Brossois. You wanted to take Jones.
I don't care.
Jones is $2 million.
I understand. I get that.
You think Pete DeBoer is going to go back to the well to the guy that got him fired?
Probably not. That's fair.
Okay.
But and I know my audience in this show is a bad one for my argument. I'm well aware of that. But I honestly believe, and this is probably a horrible thing to say to you, but I don't think the difference between backup goalie. What do we have? Yeah, we'll read those. I don't think the difference between backup goalie that is number 7 or 5 is all that much different than backup goalie number 13 or 20 or 25. I think you're talking about a few goals over the course of 10 games, 15 games, and this team is not in danger of missing the postseason. Mm-hmm. If they lose Robin Leonard in the playoffs, the only way I think they're winning the Stanley Cup is if Logan Thompson is a future superstar in the NHL. It's the only way. I don't think Laurent Brossois is winning them the cup.
I think Thompson has a high ceiling. I don't know if I'd put him there. I mean, just from what I watched him play.
But that's your only option. What is the ceiling for Laurent Brossois? Is he winning them the cup?
Be surprised.
It would be surprising. So why are you paying $2.5 million for that? Sorry, I love Laurent. I'm happy he got his money. Good for him. But as a Golden Knights fan, if you are one, you can't have it.
Because then you end up with Malcolm Subban on $1 million.
That's fine.
$750.
They went to the Stanley Cup final with Malcolm Subban. Dylan Ferguson was on the bench for a couple of games.
Malcolm Subban was never a starter in the American Hockey League.
It's fine. When did it matter?
But it mattered the moment that they decided we can't win with this guy and we got to go get someone else.
When did it actually cost them anything? The only time backup goalie has ever cost them anything was last year.
Because they didn't have it.
They lost to Montreal because they were one forward short. Right. If they had one more $7 million forward or 5, they probably beat that team. I don't know what happens against Tampa.
Right. But again, when we say this, we've got to be clear. Who are you going to get between $750 and $1 million? Go down the list. I'll tell you the reasons why you wouldn't want any of these guys.
Scroll that down, Jason.
Okay, so you could have had Antti Raanta. Antti Raanta is going to be hurt.
That's fine. I know he's a knucklehead, right?
Yeah. Do you want Rittich?
Yes.
No. After his last season, he couldn't even get in the lineup in Toronto.
Fine. I don't care.
So let's go down the list here. All right. Stolarz was already under contract. Vejmelka, we didn't even know who he was, who he existed. Okay.
Well, somebody should scout him and find him.
Forsberg was already on a contract.
Malcolm. There you go. I'll take him.
Here's Elliott at $900,000.
Brian Elliott, 900. And look at who signed Brian Elliott.
Tampa.
Right.
But Brian Elliott's also 37 years old, 2 years.
Okay.
I'm shocked that he got a deal in Tampa. I am. I'm totally shocked by that. I mean, this is what I mean. You can't, the going rate on a backup goalie is between, really 1.5 and 4.
Not for winners.
Okay.
Not for winners. It's not.
Do you know what McElhaney was making to sit on the bench?
How much?
1.25. I
Okay,
think at least,
1.25 is not 2.5.
I know.
What did they have this year? 700,000. St. Louis, what was theirs? He was the starter. 700,000.
But he was grown from within, and they didn't
So
know
is
who
Thompson.
they had. So, but Jordan Binnington had played 5 years in the minors before he got that chance. Okay.
A lot of ECHL time, back up in the AHL to begin that season.
One season in the ECHL total.
I'm not trying to make the Binnington is Thompson thing. All I'm trying to say is you have a player in Logan Thompson that was an option. We've now seen him in a lot of AHL games. We've now seen him in an NHL game. I think it's pretty clear if you put him in there, you are not automatically losing the hockey game. That's the only thing you're trying to avoid.
But you also don't want to blow him up and ruin his career, because if it goes poorly and it gets hung on him, and if you started the season with him and it started poorly like that.
Why am I starting the season? I'm not starting the season with him. I'm starting the season with Mike McKenna as my backup.
Yeah, which would have been a big disaster.
That would have been fine. You'd have stopped enough of them.
Yeah. Well, look at Carter. I know. Well, look at Carter.
You'd have been fine.
Look at Carter Hutton. You
got an 8.7 here. You'd have been. I'm good with that.
Carter Hutton in Arizona. There's a lot of guys out there that, they should have gotten. They should have gotten Craig Anderson. That's who they should have gotten. But he's hurt.
Would have been fine. He's got a hell of a haircut.
It's nice. It's a good one.
Tremendous.
He's a good race car driver too. So anyway, what we can agree about here, Ken, is that the Golden Knights are actually in a good position with Logan Thompson now.
They are. They are in a very good position. Okay, let's move on to another topic, and I'm going to bring Jason on for this one because I find this one. I don't know. Jason was a big fan of saying that Alex Pietrangelo wasn't very good last year. And I was a big fan of saying Alex Pietrangelo wasn't very good because he wasn't very good. Last night, Alex Pietrangelo stunk. That was the worst game Alex Pietrangelo has played this season. It's unfortunate. He was not very good. And Philip Forsberg then made him look really bad in a hurry. I have zero concerns over Alex Pietrangelo being a good hockey player the rest of the season. Does not concern me at all. I don't really give a shit that he sucked last night. I don't know. Maybe one of the 17 kids was up a little bit late. I don't know. But this quote jumped off the page to me. I could not believe what I was reading when I read this quote. Here it is from former AHL coach Jack Hahn. Here it is. Though Pietrangelo is a perennial Norris contender who plays big minutes in all situations, VGK7's transitional defense is vastly overrated. Because his backward glide is subpar, he must cross his feet to match speed with the puck carrier or play a far looser gap than is ideal to stay between his check and the net. Are we concerned by this?
Mike, I'll let you, the expert, go first.
He hasn't won a Norris. He does play all big situation minutes. I'm trying to remember where Jack Hahn. I'm going to trust his credentials.
Marley's AHL coach.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Did he play for Vancouver?
Now, I do want to make it clear that in the Jack Hahn article that I lifted this very quote from, he named two things that were the reason why the Golden Knights have turned around their season defensively, going from one of the worst teams in high danger chances to one of the best teams. The first thing he named was going to the 1-1-3. They did that the very first game of the season. And the second thing he named was putting White Cloud with Theodore. That has happened 7 games up to this point. They have lost a few of those 7. I do not believe most of the article and what he wrote because I don't think he's following the team that closely. However, this is interesting to me.
I got it. I think he was like the video or the stats guy for the Marlies when I played against them the 1 year. I'm not trying to shoot on his credentials here at all. I've never thought Pietrangelo was the greatest defender. I think in zone, once he gets there, he's very good at it because he's very heady. He knows where he needs to be, makes great outlet passes. He closes on pucks well, uses his stick. But I do think he has that tendency to get caught up ice at times. And when that happens, it is tough to get back for him.
And that's my concern is if Pietrangelo's transitional defense is vastly overrated and Shea Theodore's transitional defense is probably vastly overrated, if even rated highly. I'm not even sure. I don't rate it all that highly. This team wants to play transitional hockey. That's what they're best at. Is that not massively concerning of how that is set up?
And if
Okay.
Petrangelo is not able to play the way that Mike, you were just saying, he's a little bit more, north, I guess would you like to say, but more
Mhm.
importantly, he's really smart with the puck. You want him to have the puck. If
Yeah.
he's not playing that way and he's skating backwards and trying to defend, you're not scoring as much.
No, I think with Petro, I mean, you know what you're getting. You're getting an offensive juggernaut, and I mean, I know he's over the boards for all scenarios. And again, starts in the D zone are one thing, um, but I do see it throughout the lineup. Like when you're playing that traditional, I mean, McNabb's not a great skater either. This is why they've seen some of
He's
these
pretty
rush
good
chances go back the other
transitionally,
way.
though, actually. I mean,
He had
he
a
has
sick back
times
check
where
last
guys
night in
burn
the
him,
third. I couldn't believe it.
but for the most part, he's shockingly good. I would say he's vastly underrated transitionally. Defensively, I don't think he's an all-around defenseman, but I think if you skate at him, his gap's going to be good.
It's not as involved as awesome. So, but Petro, yeah, man, like remember McKinnon last year? Oh boy, like it's real. He's pretty aware. But yeah, to call him a Norris, I mean, he's not a Norris. I mean, really, when's the last time he was in the mix for a Norris? Like, he's not going to win a Norris ever. With the guys, you got guys named Makar, Fox, Yossi, Hedman, Ekblad. Like, he's nowhere near those guys.
Well, and I was actually disappointed with last night because I was all excited saying, "Ooh, let's see what Yossi versus Petrangelo looks like." I was excited. Let's see what Hedman versus Petrangelo looks like. And Hedman sucked, and then Petrangelo sucked last night.
I have the same impression of Petro's game last night, and I'd be shocked if he thought it was his best one ever. But I do think some of this has a bias because we just saw him miss so many chances, and not just defensively. Like he had a ton of shots on goal, but like nothing converted. Like off the goalie's head, like just you could see frustration building on him, and then to get burned at the end kind of like drove it home. We're thinking like this guy sucked. Well, he also did actually create a decent amount last night, but it didn't outweigh the defensive side of it there. So
Mike, I know you were mentioning to Ken and I about Shea Theodore. You're seeing the same. You're seeing he's being Shea Theodore of past.
I think so.
I'm a little concerned actually because last night to me, he had one of the worst shifts I've seen out of Shea Theodore in 5 years. I know. One
was
shift.
That in the second? Was that in the second?
It was the second period.
Yeah,
yes.
I know what you're talking about.
He drives the puck beautifully. He carries it through traffic, has a perfect shot right above home plate there, whatever you goaltenders like to call it. And then he waits and finds a trailer who has a very low percentage shot. That doesn't work. Then he goes back, has that horrible turnover. They score. I mean, it was a game changer.
Yeah. I think for Theodore, really, I'm just happy to see him taking the puck into the zone like he has. Like even though that didn't end up well, even though he looked for something else, at this stage of the game, at this point of the season, I'm happy to see him carry pucks into the zone again, honestly try to get that mojo back. Like I just remember what he did against Vancouver in the bubble. And just how he was the best player for the Golden Knights.
Awesome. Yep.
He was so good, so dynamic.
I've seen that since they got Petrangelo.
And I remember watching him and thinking, this guy really could be a Norris contender down the road. He is the guy.
He finished 6th last year, by the way.
Yeah, and then Petro comes in, and that's where you want to have more bullets in the chamber, but you also think,
I want to challenge this. Our friend here, Mark here, wasn't it last week?
I still think it, Mark.
Petro, I think he is the most impactful player on the team. I will still stand by that. I thought he was terrible last night, or at least in Alex Petrangelo standards of terrible. I still think he was one of the better players, but that's just because.
But Mike, does that say something that you just said Shea was their best player in postseason 2 years ago?
Yes,
well,
absolutely.
Last year, Petrangelo was their best player last year in the postseason.
100%.
Can you win a cup when your defenseman's asked to do that much?
Yes, because I look at the Lightning have Hedman and Sergachev and McDonough. Like they have big dogs on the back end, but I don't think it's quite the same as this. Like nobody's going to mistake Sergachev for being Theodore,
Probably not.
And
but I think the last answer to your question.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair to say that they're overworking these guys or using them in too many situations like Petro. Like I know he's playing a lot of minutes and everything, but it's not that far out of whack with other people in the league. It's pretty normal. I mean, even like Florida's running Ekblad pretty hot at 25 plus a game, but dude can handle it, I actually think that I like the decor of the Golden Knights a lot, honestly. I do think I still don't know about the Petro Theodore dynamic. I still think that kind of confuses things a bit there, and it may have stunted Theodore, which is crazy because Theodore's got what, like 12 points his last 12 games. But
Do you trade
you know,
him?
a lot of secondary assists, puck movement. I don't think, especially knowing Pete DeBoer's preference for having mobile defensemen, I'd be absolutely shocked if they moved Theodore.
I would.
So is his confidence?
Can we touch? Yeah, well, that's why I want to see him carry that puck, man. I want to see him go in and screw up. Like, whatever, dude. Like, I know that was a miserable shift that you just mentioned, but this is a guy who needs to lug that puck into the zone, man, and have it on his blade and get that confidence to be able to drive the middle of the ice and score goals. They need that. They need a game changer like that, especially when you don't have Stone or Pacioretty in the lineup. And by
Mike,
the way,
Mike, will he go back and watch that play and say, you know, my confidence, I have confidence in my shot. I have to take that shot instead of find the outlet or, you know, the trailer. I mean, what is the process of him watching that play or, you know, going over film? Does film make you more confident going into the next game?
I wouldn't say confident, but it gives you constant reminders of what you think you can do better or differently. Now, you're probably not going to get that exact same scenario to happen, but if you're Theodore, presumably something similar will. And I mean, this is actually something that's probably good for everybody that's listening or watching to kind of get a glimpse of is the level of video work that players do. Like, teams generally have an iPad for every single player that the moment they get on the plane, here's your clips. And when we say clips, here's every one of your shifts. Already clipped for you to watch and go back over. So if you played 25 minutes, you could be on that bird for 25 minutes after the game, watching every single thing you did. You can do that.
How many people do that? Like are
a lot
balls deep into it, like break, like I can see the Paul Stastnys and Max Pacioretty's and Mark Stones, but like, I'm not saying this isn't Shea. I don't see Shea as like a every second of my shift type of video guy. Like that's just not how he comes across to me.
I think you'd be surprised. I bet he is. Yeah.
Right.
You can't really read somebody by that way. Like, pretty much everybody, especially the younger generation now, they want constant feedback. Like they do, like, and that's what the iPads give you. Like, you get instant gratification or verification, and you find out what you can do better. But the hard part is the game just moves so fast. It's like, how do you implement these things?
Right.
You know, it is not easy to do. So
it's like, I wish I had done that, and then that situation never comes up again the rest of your life, because no two hockey plays are the same. You said I want to touch on, and then you didn't touch on something.
What do you think about this? What do you think about these cap gymnastics and the perfect timing of Pacioretty having some wrist surgery?
I still think he's going to play this season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to leave him out for 17 weeks. I understand, but there certainly is a possibility of that. I also wonder if Pacioretty does go without, 17 weeks without playing. What Pacioretty are you getting? And what connection are you getting with Eichel and Pacioretty, if that's going to be the case, or if that's how you're going to do it? I don't know that playing the cap game is the right way for this team to necessarily win going down that road at this point. If it happens at the perfect time, go with it. But I think they're better off. If it's going to work, it's going to work this year. It's going to work next year. Let's get under the cap. Let's get Jack Eichel in the right place, and let's start whipping teams with a fair team, because they can do it.
I want to ask a follow-up on this. And I just want to see the conspiracy hats come out, or the people in the comments ask. I want to see how much of this do you think was proper timing? How much do you think this was actually he needed the surgery now?
So we kind of went over this on our podcast, and I'll kind of give you why I'm shooting down the conspiracy of that. And
I just want to hear this.
We're a big fan of conspiracies, and we like the conspiracies. But in this case, here's why I say it would not be. The fact that he played the one game indicates that it was probably not a broken bone, because if it was a broken bone, you're not going to let him play in the game. So it's probably some sort of ligament situation. Yeah. In the event that they were trying to time it out properly, why would you get the surgery minutes after that game, or a little while after that game? You would have probably waited a little bit longer, unless they knew it was exactly 17 weeks, which seems horribly unlikely. I've spoken to doctors. They seem to believe at worst it's 10 to 12. Yeah. So that seems unlikely. I think what's most likely is something was going on. You didn't feel all that good about it. Went to Christmas break, said, you know what? It feels fine. It feels better. Let's give it a go. They play that game, and it's like, nope. 7 days off didn't heal this thing. We're going to have to take care of it. I just can't buy the conspiracy on it in this case.
I think you're pretty spot on. I would be kind of surprised, though, if there wasn't at least the thought of, hey, this is going to give us some relief. So if you want to do this, let's go now. Let's get it done.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
And that's kind of, I think that enters the discussion that, hey, like, and especially on this team, man, like these guys all want to win. So if they can go 16 mil over the cap like Tampa, man, they'd be happy to do it.
Yeah. I would agree.
But like you said, the timing of it now doesn't really jive with trying to play out towards playoffs. So I was curious about that aspect, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that just went, look at them pulling a fast one.
We talked about this before. Like, I still think it's like the weirdest thing in the history of sports that like fans are kind of in many ways wanting their player to be out for the rest of the season because it makes their team better. It's just weird. Yeah. Just a weird situation. Let's bring Sean on.
Mike, real quick. Mike, so Ken and I talked about this, and Ken shot it down. Max Pacioretty is 33. He's running out of hockey games. He's trying to build at least a legacy as an American-born player. How can you convince a guy that, okay, say he's ready in 12 weeks. How can you convince a guy like that? Yes, I know he wants to win a cup, but how are you going to convince a guy like that to sit out for 5 weeks?
Yeah, it's I mean, you're not going to – the only way is if you realize the team's so far over the cap that, man, we have to do this to be able to have a shot at the cup. Like, you actually, I think you could if you had a valid enough reason for him to need that to get done, and it made sense. I don't think you're going to just sit a guy down for sure.
Here's some comments. It was definitely intentional timing. I still like the fans like Chris who are making a joke on me saying you're supposedly rooting for it. Every single Golden Knights fan is rooting for him to be out for the rest of the season because it helps the Golden Knights to win the Stanley Cup, and you all know it. And you're all lying to yourself if you tell yourself that you're not rooting for it. Stop it. Stop lying to yourself. It's going to be okay.
Let's bring our guest on.
He's like wandering around somewhere. Here he is. And now he's kind of wandering back up onto the screen here.
Dude, come join us. We've been keeping you on the line forever.
Here he is. Hello, Sean. Unmute yourself.
All, I just want to say your ability to silence Ken is so appreciated.
It is good.
Dude, I've built this skill up over the goalie interferences. This is
I know he has the ability. It is good. I will. You can't do it. Of all people that can't do it, you cannot, Sean.
Well, I silenced you when you had to give me $100 after I got my bet right.
One time.
He got the Knights were going to finish last in the division first season. 8 games in. Pay me $100
after Fleury was injured. Whatever. Ask your question.
Well, a couple things. First of all, which one of these is the water and which one of these is the gas? Because I think I caused the leak.
Okay. Water is typically like you can do that with your hand rather than a lever. So water is typically more of like round. That's probably your gas right there.
Well, okay. Here's the deal. I'm a season ticket holder. I've been a season ticket holder since the very beginning. I love the team. I've spent more money on officially licensed gear.
Come closer. You're too soft.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
I got you.
So my point is this. This season's been really challenging as a Golden Knights fan that wants to go to games but also doesn't want to potentially give my family or somebody else a life-threatening illness. Thoughts on how they've handled COVID and the mask policy? Because I think they've just punted and done a shit job. I love the team, but they have, like last night, we're the height of Omicron right now. There's not a mask to be found. Like 1 out of every 20 people are wearing a mask tops.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a policy. What the hell's going on?
I will, obviously I haven't been in the arena this year, but I was last season when this all started. And the mask policy is not a policy. We're abiding by what we've been told we have to tell you, and it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Directive 47 or whatever hell number Bruce reads every time.
Like my thing on this is like when you have rules, they should be enforced. Whether people like them or not, they should be enforced. That's what I feel like.
Can you though?
And that's the hard part, right? You need to have like people will literally say like mask police. I will say this. I've been surprised at how kind of more or less flippant Vegas was towards the entire COVID scenario. Compared to a lot of teams in the league. Like I go to a game in St. Louis, I have to show proof of vaccination to get in. It's a mask policy that they do have people that are like, it's not like, it's not the Gestapo coming after you, but like they will tell you to at least put your mask on. Now,
if
I just
don't wear pants, they're going to eject me from the game.
I know.
But,
so I think that's my easiest. Yeah, I think that's my easiest way to put it for myself for it is that I think when rules are in place, they need to be enforced. If that's period. I was really surprised that it didn't require vaccination because a lot of teams were headed that way. The Raiders did that, and teams haven't seen a drop in attendance due to that. Problem is that it doesn't matter whether you're vaccinated or not. With Omicron, you can get this thing. But,
to be fair, the Golden Knights have seen quite a bit of a drop in attendance. It's just not actually being shown because they're showing tickets sold, and the tickets have been sold for a while. Last night, they would be, I would say you're lucky to have had 12,000 there.
You can see it on TV for sure. So, yes, I think my response with this, I think they were flippant towards COVID, and I think they did it because there was a fear that they would lose a great amount of ticket sales if they put stringent policies in place. That's my belief.
Last night, I am specifically not going to the games this week so I can ensure that I'm healthy for Fleury returning. I really want to be at that game.
Yeah.
And it's going to be special. I'm not going to be able to go tomorrow with Gallant and your favorite player in the whole world, Ken, who should be back, Ryan Reeves. I know you love him. No. Okay. But like, I want to go to the games, but I just know, like, I'm risking it going to the game. I have to go in with an N95 because just no one around you gives a crap. And no one, one thing, so I emceed a UNLV game, football game recently, and they say flat out, if you don't have a mask on, you're not showing up on the trot. And like, if you look at the trot, all they do is just show a bunch of people dancing with no mask on. It's just, again, I cannot wait to ritually burn these things. But until that day happens, like, what the frig are we doing? I couldn't sell my tickets. $80, row C, upper. $80 tickets. I couldn't sell them for $25 last night.
I mean, that resale market would have been $200 a year ago.
Exactly. So like my thing is like, why am I? This is my 5th year of my season ticket thing, and I love the team. I got a freaking shrine upstairs, a bubble hockey, the whole deal.
Yeah.
Why the frig would I resign if I could just go in 10 minutes beforehand and get half price tickets or less? They said to the season ticket holders, hey, okay, if you go to every game or you hand them off to somebody else for every game or you sell them every game, we're going to give you a special treat. Okay, great. Can't wait for this treat. November comes and I did it all. I'm in, baby. You know what the treat was? I got to buy more tickets with no fee.
I feel your pain here, and I don't think for a second that players don't realize how much it sucks not to have the place full and not to have people there because I can't imagine what Henderson's going to be like. That's going to be interesting, by the way. But the problem is there's no good situation for this. There's no good solution. Okay, every single city is grappling with what to do with this.
No doubt.
But I think that they missed the ball completely coming out of COVID, what we thought was coming out of COVID, by not giving some reduction on ticket prices here and not seeing the forest through the trees and realizing that there's going to be a ton of turmoil here. And to think that you can just continue to pack the place, we're over this, we're done. Like, that's where I believe it was flippant thinking, it's just done. Like, there was a lack of foresight to this that didn't reward you as a season ticket holder in my eyes.
When they had Cameron Hughes, who I love, by the way, he dances in the aisles, but like, it's the first game where it's full house, no mask, screaming directly in people's faces. I'm like, they don't get it. This isn't over yet, guys. Relax, calm down. Let's just step it a little bit. I don't know. I hate being the freaking the mask vaccine guy. That's what I'm known for on social now. I took a picture of dance cam and somebody yelled at me like, "How dare you use my image?" I'm like, 18,000 people also saw that. But it's like, I wish that they treated the season ticket holders a little bit better than they have been. Because I'm telling you, at $80 a ticket, there's no way I'm re-signing.
Yeah.
When like this year they have cost, I probably spent $7,000 for the tickets this year. I might have, and I never resell, by the way. But this year I've had to because I'm trying to limit my visits. I might be at like $3,000 worth of value for $7,000. Why? It's so silly.
I feel your pain on it, man. And I think like, I mean, I'm an ex-player here. Like, I feel really bad for fans here that get so tied to players and just have them flushed away, like has happened with Fleury, flat straight up, man. Like, I know so many people in Vegas that have just told me how it's just different without him. You know, and it's how that was handled that really made everybody feel so hurt. And when you combine all the things you're saying with the fact that your favorite player is not there anymore, that they got flushed away, that you're just supposed to just find a new boyfriend or girlfriend and just move on. And like, I mean, like, dude, that was a line for Pierre Dorian, the general manager of the Senators a couple of years ago. It's like, oh, we let Mark Stone go, but it's just like a girl. You can just go get a new girlfriend. Okay, I guess it's that easy for some of you guys that are just beautiful human beings and just go find a new girlfriend. But I never had that luck. But
really,
based
on the comments I see in this chat, you seem like you should be doing fine in that regard. Never once has anyone recommended me as good looking in any way. You, however, I have seen a few.
Good thing I keep my shirt on.
I wish they won all those games. It would have been great.
It does. It makes me sad to see that. And that's part of what really turned me off after last year in a lot of ways, was just how that all went down. Cause like, man, fans in Vegas are the best, like the best, man. Like I'm dude, when I'd walk around games afterwards and people would like just say hi, like they've known me forever. And I'd just be like, you know who I am. Wow. Yeah. And second,
you're tall and dreamy, according to Coins.
I'm 6'2". It's like normal for a goalie, but I don't know, man. Like, I was there with the Wranglers, dude. Like, I know Vegas hockey as well as anybody from the grassroots level to what it is now. Better than a lot of people that have been there since the start of the team. Okay. And the people that have always been there get it. And they love the players. They love the team. They're not in love with the front office. They're not in love with, as fun as the game is to go and everything, they still love the players. And
I don't think they're in love with hockey, to be completely honest. And I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I really don't. I just don't think they're diehard fans of hockey. They're diehard fans of the Golden Knights. That's great.
Right. But that is great. Like that's great to pull. I mean, it's a whole city pulling for something, man. And that's where push comes to shove. Like, you ask Marc-Andre Fleury if he was playing for himself, he was playing for the whole city of Vegas. And I don't think that that's different. Most players, they'll feel that, but it's not the same as that original group. It's not the same as the ones that have stuck around and still felt that. It's just not. It's just different, and that's a natural progression. But that's the way it is.
Well, there's a certain point, like, you know, again, the logo, hooray! You know, it's not the logo that you're rooting for more than it might be the personalities behind the logo. I come from Boston. I get it. Like, you know, people get traded. I know sports. It's like, oh, God, emotional. But like, if you're going to get rid of Fleury, get value. Oh, well, you saved cap space.
Mikael Hakkarainen.
Yeah, right? Stay in Chicago. We don't really need you. We're going to save the money on the flight. But between that and Gallant, I think Gallant was really the first one. It's like, really? That is shrewd. It is
that caught me off guard.
I've called for Steve Spot's head on 9 times already. Guy still has a gig. Oh, they got it right now? Oh, okay, great, because they feel like they can do it now? Oh, okay. Is that why
they're confident? They're confident now.
They're confident. All right, final words. You talking confidence? What are we?
Send us out, Sean. Say something awesome.
I won a $100 bet against Ken in the first season.
All right. Thank you, Sean.
You cut off Sean. I was really enjoying Sean. Sean is passionate, and that's.
I love you.
Oh, good.
I love you. That's the greatest thing of all. I'll never spend that 100, by the way.
Unbelievable.
I love you.
How many bikes do you have? All right. Thanks, Sean.
We never use them. I'm actually, now that I'm partially unemployed, I left Mix 94.1. I have all this time to do a bunch of stuff. So
trying to get a job now. What is
Can I just interject here briefly, very quickly, Sean? Do any of your bikes have suspension?
Both of them actually have.
Can you promise me that you will no longer hang them upside down?
Oh, well, those are going to go to Goodwill.
Okay.
Last time we rode those about 5 years ago. So
okay, good, because that will, dude. I sound like a know-it-all here, but I ride a mountain bike a lot. Like, that will ruin the suspension, the hydraulics, everything. If you do happen to get a new bike that has suspension, get one of those like winch pulley systems. You can pull them up to the ceiling with the wheels like that, and it'll be perfect.
You know, I like bike talk.
Okay, good. Sean, when I come to Vegas for All-Star, please come say hi. I promise I'll keep my mask on.
I just want to fucking enjoy the game. My dad got, is this Sean Tempesta? Yeah, it's the ugly forehead.
It is.
My dad got COVID. his friend got COVID, is on a ventilator, and is like that close to dying. I want this to be over like everyone else, but it ain't yet. And if you know that directly or indirectly you get somebody killed because of your stupid, wet freaking mouth, it's just like, we're almost done, guys. April, this is like, we got freaking a pill, antiviral pill.
Oh, no, do we lose him?
Just fuck your mouth.
Wow.
All right.
All right.
I love you guys.
Thanks, Sean. We appreciate it. We'll bring Jason back on for something that is much less heavy than what Sean just came on with.
I love the passion.
Sean's great.
You never miss passion from Sean, and that's how. By the way, to be fair, I bet him not before the season started. I bet him when the Golden Knights had just lost Marc-Andre Fleury for at least 3 months, and after Subban had been injured. I knew they were about to go on a. Never mind. Okay, look at this. Tikka masala. Tikka masala is what was cooked at the McKenna household today. Look at this. Explain your dish, chef.
Okay, so I want to make this very clear that this wasn't out of a jar. I made the sauce. I did everything. I didn't grow the cilantro or make the naan bread.
Look at that naan.
The other stuff I did. So shockingly, my children love this.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
I didn't even bother giving it to them because they tend to not like things that have a lot of flavor. I saved some of my shredded chicken. I was giving it to them. And my one daughter, who's 5, she goes, "I'll try it." Like, really?
It looks delicious.
She loved it. And then I'm making it. And if you've ever worked with anything that's, Indian, Pakistani spices, like they're very fragrant when you cook them, right? Like you can smell them outside and they smell delicious. But my daughter thought it smelled good. She thought it smelled good. She thought it smelled like pecans.
Wow.
I don't know why. Maybe it's the cinnamon in it. I thought that was hilarious. But so anyway, you started off, you just basically mince up onions, garlic, and you toss it in with tomato sauce and a whole host of different spices. I mean, there's
turmeric, coriander, cinnamon.
There's no coriander in this one, but yeah, I mean, you had cumin, cayenne, turmeric, curry powder. There's a lot going on in there, basically.
Your house must have stunk for 3 days.
It smells amazing. Paprika cream. And so, yeah, I made the sauce like 20 minutes, made the rice, and I tossed in shredded chicken that I made chicken stock like 2 days ago. And so I took the stock, but I use a whole chicken when I make stock. You take it out, I shred all the chicken off of it, and I just dump that in.
It's like a rotisserie situation?
More, I mean, like slow cooker rotisserie kind of, because that's what I was making the broth in, was my slow cooker. So yeah, man, is
this basmati?
This was it was, I tend to try to eat local, so this was like Southern Illinois rice, which is actually kind of like a jasmine rice. So jasmine, basmati, take your pick. They're all really kind of.
Illinois has their own rice.
Southern Illinois has bogs and sloughs and swamps, and yeah, they can grow. Oh yeah, Cahokia rice. Yeah.
Wow.
I think that tikka masala looks excellent. I'm about to eat bagel bites when this ends. So
I'm not kidding. Like, I was really proud of this one. It was delicious, and the whole family liked it.
Eating this tikka masala at the moment. That naan looks excellent. By the way, if you ever find the naan at the grocery store, make your own naan pizzas. They're fantastic. Put tomato sauce on there, fresh mozzarella, pepperoni if you're into that, Nugget if you like to go a little more Italian.
That you mean Nduja?
Nduja, is that how you pronounce it? Nugget?
It is. It's a spicy spreadable salami.
Delicious.
It is.
It is good.
It is fantastic.
It is
you mix that in with a little mix a little Nduja in with a little mac and cheese someday.
So normally I always like to bring up one of Mike's performances over the years, right? So today I have one. Mike, hang
on. Try to not pull the clip up, as YouTube was pissed at us last week.
No, I did not pull up the clip. I just have the box score.
And my battery saver's on.
I got a very angry email from YouTube.
Okay. From 2010, Mike, you played the Jersey Devils twice, okay?
Yep.
The second time you played 58 minutes, and the starting goaltender played a minute and whatever that change is.
Yep. Johan Hedberg got pulled after like a minute 12. He allowed 2 goals against the Montreal Canadiens. And I hear John McClain, who was our head coach, back! Oh, shit, I'm going in.
Oh, boy.
So, here we go. Like, I took like 5 shots in warm-ups. Moose he took all the shots. And in I went. And I think I went maybe 26 for 29 or something. I actually had a lot of shots in the game. And I played okay in that game. I remember it. I actually stopped my only penalty shot in that game. It was on Thomas Peklanich. So that's kind of the fun fact. The only one I ever faced was against him, and it was at home.
You only gave up 1 goal.
Real? No, I gave up 3. We lost 5.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. I was reading wrong there. Yeah. But the reason why I asked is that's basically a start that you're unprepared for.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was my career. I just tried to be ready for anything. I mean, like we talked about last week in San Jose, I came from literally underneath the stands and went into a game with like 2 minutes left in the first.
I cannot stand that. I cannot stand that building. The goalie has to sit underneath and watch on TV that's delayed by like 15 seconds. Oh, it's brutal. The chair is like a folding chair, and it's horrible.
It's disrespectful. It's very disrespectful.
And then you have out of shape coaches walking the ice during intermissions. Which
coach is out of shape?
All of them.
None. No coach I've ever seen has been out of shape. None. Somebody
asked me if I was going to play in the Chicklets roller hockey tournament in Vegas, and I do not plan on that. But I will be in Vegas for All-Star, and we are planning some fun things. Correct, guys?
We are working. Yes, we are working to make that happen. We will see if and when and where that will happen. We're going to try to make sure that happens. One question that I had that came on Twitter today before we get out of here, speaking of goalies being pulled, earlier in today's Pittsburgh and St. Louis game, it was
by the way, Crosby was fantastic.
Casey DeSmith got the heave-ho.
He got the yank, and the question was, he went directly back to the locker room, and the argument is that always happens. Very rarely do you see a goalie just sit down and like, well, I'm here now. What's going on back there in the locker room? Are we urinating? Are we throwing chairs? What are we doing back there?
I've seen all of that happen. Typically
at the same time.
Throwing a chair while taking a leak that'd be impressive. Usually you're kind of decompressing, but what's really happening is you're at least taking your gloves and your mask off and potentially handing them to a trainer in back and just trying to kind of get everything sorted in your mind. Because like you say, it is rare to see somebody just come off and take a seat. Like I actually don't know I've seen that. I mean, I've come off when I was younger. I've fully admit I've smashed some sticks and turned some things upside down. But as I got older, that didn't happen. So it's kind of a little bit of everything, but usually you just go in the room to kind of just like decompress, man. Cause like whether you deserve the pull or the team sucked or whatever, it still just blows. Like getting yanked out of a game, unless there's like 10 minutes left in the third and you just allowed your like 6th goal. And at that point you're just going, get me out of here. Getting yanked early like that sucks.
Do you have to stay, or do you get to just leave? You take your shower. Do you have to like stay for the post-game talk?
You got to stay. I got yanked one game in Tampa, and I got to finish this because my badge are going to die. And it's my last story for it. I'll take us out with it if we want to. I started in Tampa. I allowed 3 goals in the first on 10 shots. One of my best friends is in the stands. He came in, and I look up in the stands, and he's there. I'm getting off the ice. Well, Rick Tocchet goes, all right, Mac, you're out. Kari Ramo goes in for the second period. It's against Carolina Hurricanes at home. And I'll never forget, Jordan Stahl scored the first goal. Rod Brindamore scored the second on me. Then we go in for the second period. Kari Ramo comes out. He starts the second. He allows 6 goals in the second period. We're losing 9-1 coming out for the third. And all of a sudden, Talk looks at me and he goes, you're going back in. And I went, I've been tasked with keeping this out of double digits. I can't allow a goal.
Oh my God.
And I look up in the stands to my buddy, and he's got the biggest beer I've ever seen in my life. And he just goes, and just like cheers me with it. And I went in, and you know what? We ended up losing the game 9-3. I shut him down for the rest of the time. So that's my story for today. Thanks to Jim Jimerson of the Jimerson Law Firm. Ken, Jason, it was fun as always. I can't wait to do this next week with you guys again.
Can you walk out of the room and slam the door as hard as Marshall so slammed that penalty box door?
If I wanted to wake my kids up, yes. I'm not doing it because he did get that thing.
What a great moment. I love that moment. All right. Good night, everyone. We'll see you next week. I don't remember if it's Wednesday or Thursday, but look at the schedule. We'll see you then. Goodbye.
We'll figure it out. Bye-bye.